And then we saw like 10,000 people coming to this place and playing different board games. Also, lot of companies across the world came to this exhibition and exhibited their board games.
So if you want to have fun, I think it is always good to have a bit of competition, and then should be kind of like competing against each other. So that is where the fun comes from in board games. So,
what is your opinion in regard to board game culture in India and here in Germany?
So I think in India, the board game culture, it is still in a very nascent phase. So
is this at the end of the day only a hobby for fun, or do you think it helps you in your overall development?
Like kind of like it makes you think. Like board games are not only children's games. Like you have to build strategies. You need to think of how you can win. You need to think 2 or 3 turns in advance. So
if you are in a company where you are responsible for designing board games, what would your board game look like?
I think it would be
Hello. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Kamat Talks. In today's episode, I have a special guest with me, and also the topic of today's episode is fairly different than what we have done in the past. So, in today's episode, I have with me Nitesh Shenoy, who is here in Germany since 10 years, and he is a sort of board game expert, I would say. He has been playing a lot of board games here in Germany. And in today's episode, we are going to speak about board game culture and how it is here in Germany. So, welcome Nitesh to this podcast. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
So, maybe it would be nice to get to know you a little more. You can tell us, how did it all start for you? When did you start playing board games, and when did you probably also come to Germany?
So I came to Germany in 2013, so 12 years back, in 2025. And the first kind of interaction with board games in Germany would have been at a kind of like a Spielcafé, it is called in Germany. So you can go to kind of like the university where I was studying, it's called Aachen. And in Aachen, there's a lot of huge student population, and there are a lot of cool cafes and bars. So one of the cafes in Aachen, it is run by the Katholische Hochschulgemeinschaft, and it was called Chico Mendes. So in this Chico Mendes cafe, the really cool thing was you can go there and you can spend a lot of time there, because there were a lot of board games that you could just go to the cupboard and just pick it out and then just sit there, order a kind of like a coffee or a cocoa, and then just drink it and just play the games. So that was the first interaction with board games in Germany, at least. And in India, as you know, we play a lot of Monopoly, Snakes and Ladders and everything. So I think it is quite bacha games as compared to the kind of games that are available here.
So now that you also spoke a little bit about how it was in India, right? Like when I was in India, I also played a lot of card games, but mostly to do with the deck of 52 cards and Monopoly. And when I came to Germany, you were the first one to introduce me to strategic board games. Since then, I have not looked back. I have played a lot of them. What is your opinion in regard to board game culture in India and here in Germany?
So I think in India, the board game culture, it is still in a very nascent phase. So I think there are a lot of cafes coming up. So I was quite surprised in Mumbai, for example, they are opening up cafes where you can book a couple of hours and you can kind of like get someone to help you understand the game and play it. So I think that culture is slowly coming up. But I think in Germany, the main thing is like we have a lot of free time here as compared to India, right? So in India, I think a lot of people, they don't have the time to kind of like play games, and it is not seen as a adult hobby, you can say, but it is completely different in Germany. So there are a lot of board games conventions happening, and there are a lot of groups also. They regularly meet up and play board games in their free time. So I think Germany is quite advanced in that, but I think hopefully in a couple of years we will see such a kind of like board game culture also in India, hopefully.
You touched a very important point that board games in India is not looked as a adult hobby. And also I was discussing about this with one of my Brazilian friend, and he mentioned that probably in other tropical countries, these kind of games are not played or pursued because you can always go out of your house and do outdoor activities. So what is the need to stay inside a home and play? Probably his point was, at the end of the day, it depends on the region. And since there is winter here for 3 to 4 months a year, during this time you cannot go out of your home, and therefore a lot of these kind of countries have developed in board game sector. So what do you think could be one of the point?
I think I can relate to that. For example, we got into the hobby basically because it was Corona times and we didn't have anything to do. So we were at home the whole time. We couldn't go out, and that is where we started watching YouTube videos and trying to understand what kind of cool games are there, and we started trying it out, buying it. So I can relate to that. And as you say, like because of the weather, you're staying at home and you cannot go out. So yeah, it could be an influence of that. Yeah,
I think it's a very different take, and I also never thought that it's fully different in Germany in this sector. And one of the important thing that I noticed was there was a Spielmesse. What it means is there was a exhibition for board games. I was just curious to see what it is, and I went there. And then we saw like 10,000 people coming to this place and playing different board games. Also, a lot of companies across the world came to this exhibition and exhibited their board games. So like I never thought I would see something like this in Germany. It was a culture shock for me. I always thought there are exhibitions only for autos or cars or for some other kind of technical things, but never in my dream I thought I would see such an exhibition where 10,000 people come on a weekend, visit this exhibition, play the board games. So this happens once in a year. Earlier it used to happen in Munich, but now since 2 years it's happening in Augsburg. So for all the viewers from Germany or who are in Europe, maybe you can visit one of these Spielmesse that happens once in a year in Augsburg. I will put the link in the description. Yeah. So this was a different thing for me. But to come back to the initial point, which was the first board game that you played, and who introduced you to it?
So the game where we really got into like the board game habit was we played it with our friend. His name is Suhail. So we were invited to his house in, I think it was in Ingolstadt. Not sure where exactly, somewhere in that area. And the game that he introduced to us to was called Keltis, basically. So we played a lot of Keltis, right? So we were there for the entire evening there. Like we spent the night over and we were playing it. So it was a lot of fun, basically. And after that, I don't think we kind of like the next couple of weeks, we didn't do anything. But after that, Corona hit. And then we were like bored at home and we thought, this was a really good game. Like we can play it with our friends. So we got Keltis. And then after that, we started playing it more. And then we thought, okay, what other games can we play? Because playing one game only, you get bored after some point of time. Correct. Then we started slowly exploring new games. We started watching YouTube videos. And then, we started buying one game after the other. And then, that's where we are at the moment.
Nice. I have also been playing few of these games in the recent past. And I feel that at the end of the day, a lot of the board games fall in different categories. The themes are more or less similar. Since you have played a lot of games, do you recognize any patterns in the themes? What is your take on different categories that exist in board games?
So you have got kind of like games where you play against each other. So majority of the games, I would say, you are playing against each other. There are games where you are playing against the board itself. You're playing against the game itself. So like, for example, Monopoly or Game of Life or whatever, like the objective is one person has to win. And that is where, you're playing one against the other. but you've got collaborative games where all of you are playing as a team. So one of the examples of that is called Pandemic. It's quite a popular game. So there you are trying to save the world kind of from a kind of like a pandemic. And so that's a collaborative game. And there are all, like, I think those are the two broad categories. I think, like, you've got cooperative games and you've got games you've got where you're playing against each other, but there are also some games where you are doing like a role playing mission. So like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, is quite a popular game. Like so something like that, like you take on the character, you take on one character, you are in the role, you've got special powers, and then you have to complete some missions. So such kind of role playing games are also there. And then there are different categories where you have got like cards, you can say, like you are playing with cards, or games where kind of like you have kind of like a board and you have to, there are pieces on it where you move. So there are so many varieties. I think there are so many things. I can just pick up one game and tell you like what kind of themes there are. So I think like there are so many things to explore.
For me, I never thought there are board games which you can play against the game itself to defeat the game. So we played a game called The Mind, this game here. So in this game, the strategy is to defeat the game itself. So then it's a different kind of atmosphere when we, four of us, come together and try to defeat the game. So it's a different feeling than playing against each other.
That's true.
So when we were in India, at the end of the day, we never thought these kind of things exist. And now that I have played a lot of them, I always feel that board games can help you in critical thinking, and it also gives you a sense of competitiveness, and also probably helps you in improving your critical thinking strategies. So what is your take? Is this at the end of the day only a hobby for fun, or do you think it helps you in your overall development?
That is true. Like kind of like it makes you think. Like board games are not only children's games. Like you have to build strategies. You need to think of how you can win. You need to think 2 or 3 turns in advance. So yeah, that is quite true. Like it's not only for fun, but you can also learn new strategies and kind of like refresh your brain also. And maybe you are working on a very tough problem, and then you kind of like take a break, then you play a game, and then maybe during the game you get like a kind of like a deja vu moment and say, this is how I can solve it. So I think it does promote a lot of mental fitness also. So that's quite true.
Yeah, I fully agree on this point, that I feel a sense of purpose when I play, and when I attack new games, it feels like, how can I solve this puzzle or this game in the best possible manner? So it's sort of a challenge in a fun way. So I fully agree that it's a nice thing for people to pursue and try to see if it works out for them. A lot of people here in Europe are still not aware of the possibilities that this sector gives. What do you have to say, like, for the people who think that board games are probably only for kids? What would your one-liner be?
I would say try it out. You should try it out, then you know what exactly you're missing out on.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point for the people who are watching this video and who have not yet tried different board games. Going back to a point, when you started board games, which was the one game that you liked going back to again and again when you started playing board games?
So there's a game called Istanbul. I think it is right here. Let me just show it to you also. So this is a game that is like my favorite, I would say. So it's called Istanbul, and the objective is to collect a lot of rubies here. So there are a lot of kind of places basically on the board. And for example, you have to go to the market, buy something, or you have to go to the coffee shop, or if you have to go to a gambling place, get money. And there are so many combinations that you can do, because there are around, I think, 16 pieces in the basic set. And you can directly kind of like put all of them in different places. So every time you have to change your strategy, because the same strategy that you have played in the previous game, so like the pieces are at a completely different position, and the objective is to kind of like get 5 rubies at the end of the game, and you need to get it before anyone else does it. Okay. And you need to think very much in advance, because you can move only a specific number of steps. And that is why you need to kind of like make sure that you are moving in the correct direction. You need to think like 2 or 3 moves in advance, and you need to make sure that you have the possibility to block people also from getting certain things. So it's quite fun. It is quite competitive, and it is kind of like a couple of hours of fun. And this was like the one of the best games that I've played, I would say. And we do still play it, and this version is called the big box. So if you're bored with the basic set, after that you can start expanding it and then try different combinations. So this is my all-time favorite.
Are there any other games that you would recommend also for others to try? Of course, you have probably hundreds of other games on top of your mind, but if you have to choose one game for someone who wants to just have fun and not think too much, do you have also something in that?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, if you are a novice, I would say, like if you have never had any kind of interaction with board games, okay, and like you have a friend like that, and he says, board games, I don't want it. Like it's for kids. Why are you guys playing it? What is so much fun in that? So the one game, this entry game, it's called, it is called Ticket to Ride. So it has been Spiel des Jahres also. So there are different versions of Ticket to Ride also. Or I think it is in German, it is called Zug. So this game, it is very easy to explain. The problem with kind of like or games, like very advanced games, is that you need a lot of time to kind of like explain the rules of the game. It becomes very difficult, and it is kind of like it prohibits someone from entering into this world. So that is why you need kind of like an entry game where you can kind of like just have a taste of it. And once you get a taste of it, then you can start the more complicated games. So this entry game, I think Ticket to Ride is like one of the best games to enter it, basically. And it is quite easy also. You can explain the rules in like 5 minutes, I would say, less than 5 minutes, and you can play for like at least 2 or 3 hours. So this is like one of the biggest recommendations I have. If you have a friend who has, or a partner who has never played board games and you are into board games, so introduce them to this game first.
Yeah. So like I think you introduced us to this game, and since then we have never looked back, and recently we have been taking more and more challenges and going to more complex games. Having said that, do you always play board games with your partner, or do you also bring all of your friends? How is the setup usually when you play this kind of board?
So like if you're only alone, or if you are with your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, there are a lot of 2-player games also. So one of the 2-player games that I recommend is Patchwork. So it is quite nice. You can kind of like play for an hour. It is quite competitive also. And generally what we do is we invite all our friends here who are living in Kaufering and Landsberg. And then we kind of like have game nights. So you are there, you are kind of like laughing, you are enjoying the game. We can play different games also. In one evening, you can play like 2 or 3 games. So it is quite fun, like it is competitive, and then you can like start teasing people, I won and stuff. So that is generally what we do. We invite our friends over, and then we start playing it. The problem is only the number of players. So if you have got a big group, then it becomes much more difficult, because most of the games are like 4 players or 5 players. But if you have a bigger group, then there are a couple of games like which are kind of like big group games also. Like I can recommend Codenames, or Decrypto, or Deception, or what do we have? Camel Cup, or I think so many games. So that is, playing in a group is always much more fun, but the group size should be like limited, I would say. Otherwise you cannot play many games.
I think now I have a long list of games that I need to try out. So it's nice to know that there are a lot more games that I haven't explored yet. But how is your character when you play these board games? Are you too competitive, or how do you take when you play a board game?
If you want to have fun, I think it is always good to have a bit of competition, and then should be kind of like competing against each other. So that is where the fun comes from in board games also. But if you are always kind of like if you're having a lot of fights and everything, then you can switch to a cooperative game also, like Pandemic, or there are a bunch of other games also which you can play to kind of like cool down the tension also.
Has it ever happened that there were high tensions and it led to a make or break kind of things in regard to friendship?
A lot of times, like not friendship as such, but there is generally when we are playing, sometimes it is like a boys versus girls scenario. So there were a lot of instances like there are games like Decrypto or Deception, or even as not Deception but code names, for example, where you have to build two teams and you have to, and the teams have to compete against each other. And generally the accusations fly, hey, you guys are cheating, hey, you are seeing too much, no, you're cheating, and stuff like that. So becomes quite aggressive, I would say. And then the husband and wife, they're like, oh, they'll start fighting and everything. So it does happen.
It does happen. So. Yeah, but it has never happened that more than an hour or more than a day you guys had to.
Yeah, that is okay. That is always, at the end of the day, you have to remember it's just a game. You're doing it for fun.
Yeah. When I look for board games, one of the things that I find personally difficult is where do I find these kind of board games, right? Like now I know few names from you. However, for people who probably do not know a lot of board games, how do you look for games that you are not aware of? So what is your strategy in finding new board games?
So like Germany actually is kind of like one of the central hubs or countries in the world for board games actually. So like many of the companies who are manufacturing these games, they're all from Germany actually, and many of the game developers, they are many of them are European basically, or actually Germans also. So like they have kind of like Oscars for the board game enthusiasts. I think it happens in Essen, if I'm not mistaken, every year. So it's called Spiel des Jahres. So in Spiel des Jahres, like you kind of like, it is like the award ceremony for board games. So every year, like new games are developed by all these companies, and then they enter into this competition, like as in like how the movies are made, and then you get an Oscar for a movie and something like that. So you have got like a couple of awards there, like Children's Game of the Year, or Board Game of the Year, or like Critics Game of the Year. So the best way to do it, like to kind of like select a game, or like if you want to really play a new game, I would say like just Google Spiel des Jahres or Game of the Year, and then you have got like an entire history. This kind of like event has been happening since many decades. So you've got at least 30 or 40 games where you can kind of like see like from this from the winners list, and then you can read the description of it, and then you can kind of like just have a look at like a YouTube video where someone is explaining it, or there are so many YouTube videos or channels where like they are doing a kind of like a playthrough, like where they play an entire game also. So you can see like how much fun it is and whether it is something for you. So I think that is like one way to kind of like discover it or discover new games. Or the other way is just ask a bunch of friends who are already into board games, and then they'll tell you a couple of recommendations depending upon your tastes, because it's a very personal thing also. Like one board game might not be kind of like be loved by someone else. So it is a quite personal choice also, which games you would like to play.
Yeah, this is something new. I never knew of this repository of Spiel des Jahres. I always saw that some of these board games, for example, Catan, is Spiel des Jahres from 1990s. So this game exists since a long time, but I never knew this repository exists online, and I can go through the brochure or the website. And yeah, another important thing that I find personally difficult is when buying these board games. What I did multiple times is we went to the shops where they sell board games. However, I find it really expensive.
Yeah.
So each of these games somewhere costs between 20 to 80 euros, depends on the type of the game. However, for example, when you play these board games, you would not play the same board game, let's say 50 times in a year. At some point, you need new challenge. What is your strategy? Like, do you buy it first hand, or are there some different modes to tackle this problem?
So most of the games that we have is all second-hand games. And what we do generally is we go to eBay Kleinanzeigen, and there are a lot of board game enthusiasts in Germany, I would say. And as you said, like once you play a game for a lot of time, after that, some point of time, you are bored with it. And then you would like to give that fun to someone else also. So kind of like you just make a post, hey, I have this game, someone wants to buy. So something like kind of like a Kleinanzeigen, or in India, you can call it OLX or something like that. So in Germany, you have got eBay Kleinanzeigen, which is quite popular. So you can just upload it there and then you can sell it. And that is how I have kind of like, we have kind of like accumulated most of our games. So what we do is if we like a game, we just Google or we search for it on eBay Kleinanzeigen, and it doesn't matter where exactly it is in Germany or even in Europe. Like you just pay a kind of like a shipping cost of 5 euros, and then like the game is sent to you. And these games will be much, much cheaper than how much you would the money you would give out in a shop. So if a game is costing like 60 bucks or something, like you can get that game in a very, very good condition for like 20 euros also. You have to pay kind of a bunch of shipping charges for it, but they will be in very, very good condition, because I think the board game enthusiasts here, like they keep their games quite properly. So I think that's a quite good community here also. And so that is how we have accumulated our games, at least.
I thought about this option at some point, but what I was always worried about is the full deck available, or will something be missing? Did you ever face any challenges in this regard, or was it always on point?
So far, never, basically, because they generally mention if there is kind of like anything missing or not. And we have made like over 50 purchases so far, and we were never cheated as such. Like there was always everything there, and the entire thing was there. And the other way how you can make sure that you're getting a good deal is like there are kind of like reviews for the sellers. And if a seller has a bad rating, then you should stay away from such a person. But if a seller has a good rating, then you can always kind of like, you are assured that you will get the best deal for the money you're giving out. So that is one way of making sure that you are getting the correct items.
Okay. Yeah, I think you explained most of the stuff in regards to like how to find a board game, how to buy a board game, and what all different categories of board games exist. One thing that interests me personally is also, do you think is it possible to understand different people when you observe them playing board games against you or also against someone else?
Generally, if you're in a large group, some people will kind of like stay quiet, they wouldn't interact with the group and everything. But if you are in a board game, I think those kind of like walls are shattered, and then they are, or like you are forced to interact with everybody. And kind of like, I think you get to know a person better also when you are playing board games. So that is quite true. Yeah, okay. We can do that.
Yeah, maybe we go to a small fun segment wherein I ask you questions rapidly, and it's the rapid fire round. If you have to choose only one board game for the rest of your life, which one would that be?
Definitely Istanbul.
So looks like you are a big fan of Istanbul. So for all the viewers, definitely try this game out. I have to try it myself out for sure. So yeah, if you are in a company where you are responsible for designing board games, what would your board game look like?
I think it would be a role-playing game, because that is also quite fun. Like you get like these mini characters, they have got special powers. And I think kind of like building teams, and then they are playing against each other. Like maybe you can build 3 or 4 teams. So I would like to design a game like that. That would be quite fun.
If you get an opportunity to take 5 board games to India and introduce it to the whole of India, Of course, I think Istanbul will be one of them. Which would the other four be?
Mm-hmm. So I would introduce a bunch of categories of games. So one of them will be a kind of like a entry game or kind of like a breaker game. So Ticket to Ride will be one of them. Like the most advanced one, I would say, like once they've gone into Ticket to Ride, they're playing and they like it, I would say then Istanbul is one of the good ones. And the other ones that I like is also like card games. So one of the very, very nice games that we have played or we like playing is called Exploding Kittens also. So that's also quite fun, where you kind of like play against each other and you have to make sure that you don't get an exploding kitten. So that's also quite fun, this card game. And other than that, like kind of like team games, you can say, like where teams are playing against each other. So either code names or decrypto, I would say they are quite fun. Like one of them I would choose. So how many did we do? We did 4 so far, right? Yeah. And one of the last games that is also, it's a like one of the very, very good games that we have played in the last couple of years is called Sheriff of Nottingham also. So in Sheriff of Nottingham, like you're kind of like smuggling goods into Nottingham. Like you get the opportunity to kind of like be the sheriff in each round. So all the players, you can play up to 5 players, and then you have to kind of like lie to someone on the face or kind of like bribe them. So that's a really cool game also. I think that would be also quite popular in India. So yeah, these would be my top 5 games.
Okay. Yeah, we are more or less coming to the end. One thing that always I think of is I always want to take some of these board games and play it with my cousins. This is something we always used to do as young kids. Did you ever do this already? Did you ever take some of the board games to India and all introduce it to your family? If yes, how was it taken, and do people really enjoy it playing in India?
Yeah, definitely. Like what we did was we kind of like got a bunch of games and we took it to India during the Christmas vacations. And we started playing it with our parents also. So that was also quite nice. So people who are over 60 years old, like they are also into games, and they were also quite competitive and fun. So like one of the games that my parents liked, it's called Azul. I think it might be here somewhere, exactly here. So let me just show it to you guys. So this is like one of the very, very nice games. And this is the game like where my dad always wins. I don't know why. So he's like always winning in this. And so it was quite fun. And one of the other games, like where my grandmother, like they liked it and they were playing against each other and having a lot of fun. I think that's also quite popular. It is called Dobble. So Dobble can be played by any age, I would say. Like even if you're like a 5-year-old kid or an 80-year-old grandma. So it is always fun, and it's always a lot of fun moments we can have. So that's what we did. We got these simple games, and some of my friends who I introduced the games to, they are now on to advanced games. So they started playing like Istanbul, or they started playing, I think one of the Wingspan is also one of the games which they bought and they're playing. So that is how you introduce it, and then it's quite fun. So a lot of people remember me because I introduced them to the game. So it is also quite nice going back again, playing them, and they have discovered new games. So it's a good feeling.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just that probably in India, not a lot of these games are introduced well, and as you said, maybe in future, more and more initiatives are taken, and more cafes open up wherein people can try it out, and then once you get a feel of it, I think it's too much of addiction. That's what happened with me, at least. We are coming to the end of this session. However, I have one question. So which is that one game that you are thinking of playing, or you want to try it out in the upcoming few months?
So, that's a very, very good point. So I would like to play this game, and it is too advanced for me. So I would like someone to help me understand this game, because it takes kind of like 1.5 hours to understand how to play this game. So this is on my wish list. It has been since like many years, unfortunately.
So to wrap up things, why do you think board games are such a great thing to bring people together?
Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So you are not just sitting at home and then chilling and kind of like watching a movie or something like that. So it kind of like stimulates your mind, your strategy, like your how to build strategy. And then I think it brings people together also. I think that is why you should kind of like at least try board games.
Okay. Any final tips that you would like to give for people looking to start group board games night for the first time in their life after seeing this podcast?
Yeah. So you should be patient at the beginning. So there'll be some people in the group who will be very into it, and some they'll be like, this does not that seem that cool. It is not that much fun. But you need to be a bit more patient. And the people who are enthusiastic, I think they should kind of like look at the reaction of others also, and just try it out. That is the only advice.
Thank you, Nitesh, for joining us and then sharing your experiences. For me, since you have introduced me to these board games, roughly around 2 years before, life has changed in many ways, because it might look like a trivial thing at the end of the day, but it really helped me to connect with a lot of new people, and it's always fun to meet new people, explore new things together. So it's not just at the end of the day a small hobby. It helps you connect with people, and that is exactly what has happened with me, while giving me a lot of joy and fun exploring new things. So thank you very much once again for introducing and also coming on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So for all the viewers who are watching this video, I would definitely recommend you all to at least try one or two of these board games, and then you need no more of these podcasts. You will be on your own, and probably one day you would like to share your experiences on our podcasts. If you like this channel, please subscribe and also share this video with others, so that many more can follow this hobby and hopefully have a lot of fun with their friends. Thank you. Until next time. See you guys.